We'll be speaking with the Director General of the National Orientation Agency, Mr. Lanre Issa Onilu, whose agency has done some substantial work trying to alert and educate people as to the dangers and hazards of, trying to scoop fuel whenever it is a tanker capsizes. What more needs to be done? These are some of the questions we'll be asking in just a moment. Please stay with us. Well, that's a matter that we're taking a look at. Just to update you that we now understand that at least 42 people have lost their lives in that very tragic incident, and 60 people still battling to, keep their lives in the Federal Medical Center in Bida. Well, I did tell you earlier that Mr. Lanre Issa Onilu, who is the Director General of the National Orientation Agency, joins us now. It's good to have you in our studios this morning. I know that this must be pretty frustrating for you, given the amount of work that the NOA has been, the campaign that you've embarked upon, trying to let people know the dangers associated with going near a tanker that has, I'm using capsized, but it has turned over. In this situation, it does appear that the more you say it, it doesn't seem that the message is sinking in.
Yeah, well, it's just as you said, it's very frustrating. But we saw it coming. Following the incident that happened at Diko, same Niger State, some months ago, where several people died for the same reason. The president gave us a marching order, to conduct a nationwide sensitization. We flagged off in that local government, and brought stakeholders together. The community leaders, the religious leaders, the police, the civil defense, the youth leader, the women, everybody. And our findings, show clearly that sensitization alone and enlightenment won't solve this problem. They are quite aware of the danger.
Sensitization and enlightenment alone would not solve it?
No, would not.
So what needs to be done?
Okay, so we after we did that, because we got to know that the Diko case, the police arrived almost 20 minutes before the fire, and tried to prevent the people of that community from approaching the product. But they chased the security personnel. They chased them away. And barely 10 minutes after they chased them away, the explosion occurred. So a failure of leadership at the community level, because the community leaders did not provide the support that the security personnel required. If they had done that, that Diko would not have happened. And I'm sure this particular one, you will find out that it is the whole of the community issue. So when we discovered that, we went to Pengasan. We sat with them.
Pengasan or Nupeng?
Nupeng in Lagos.
Yeah.
So we sat with Nupeng in Lagos at the headquarters. And they gave us a litany, of reasons why things that needed to be done. And I'm aware that at the level of the downstream petroleum the agency, there's this stakeholders again that were involved also. And all sorts of regulations have been put forward to ensure that this is curbed. So you can say bad road. We all know the bad spot. All those have been defined where this could happen. It's documented. But if there is a spillage, why do you go near it when you know the risk involved? It happened in Jesse, which over 1,000 people perished. It happened in Diko just recently. It shouldn't happen again. But that's why we felt, it's about our values in this country. It's about our values. I'll give you something that happened in Japan just last week. For 38 hours, the tolling systems in Japan collapsed. So vehicles were moving without having to pay at the toll gates. And that lasted for 38 hours. And within that period, 24,000 drivers drove through toll gate that they didn't need to pay. Immediately, the tolling system was restored. Without any prompting from anybody, all of them went back and paid their dues. Voluntarily, nobody was asking them to pay. They went back to pay. That's what value does to people. Accountability. So people hold themselves accountable. They don't wait for anybody to hold them accountable. So it's about values. And we're not like this. So we could see over the decades how our values have eroded. Otherwise, parents would ask their children, why do you want to take what belongs to another person? Because even that fuel, that petroleum, the PMS that spilled, belongs to somebody's investment. So the act of even taking it is theft. It's criminal. It's something that you can be prosecuted for taking what does not belong to you. So you see parents in the past ensuring that their children would not even attempt to go near it. If it were possible for you to salvage that product, it will be for the purpose of assisting the owner to salvage some of his product, not to want to take advantage. But we're now in a country where there will be accidents, now people are dying, and they are picking their pockets, not making any attempt to save lives. So it's beyond just tanker falling and people going near it. It's a whole of society issue that has to do with the issue of value orientation. And that's why we are not trying to approach value orientation from the angle of sloganeering and throwing mantra around. It's deep-seated. And so and that's why we had to take the whole of a society together in this. And it is very important in our Nigerian identity project, this national value thing that we are pushing forward. Now we realize that part of the challenge we have had in this country is that we have always defined leadership narrowly. When we say leadership failure, people immediately think of political leadership. But as we have seen, leadership broadly defined includes even the family unit, includes the community, it includes associations, societies, it includes the leadership in channels, television, it includes the driver in the commercial bus, who is the leader as at that period. So leadership at all levels, all cadence of leadership must be responsible. Take what happened in Diko, as I have said. Okay, so the police arrived, the civil defense arrived to ensure that nobody went near the product. That is the representative of political leadership. They responded, but the community leadership failed. So until we see leadership beyond just people who are in political offices, and we identify that everybody who has a supervisory role must take responsibility and must do the right thing. And that is the definition, that we are trying to, push forward to ensure that we are all accountable at every level. Religious leaders must be accountable. You can't go to church or mosque and give, encourage your people to hate other people or incite them to violence, and then you say political leadership failure. No, that is religious leadership failure. So that is the way we must approach this.
Values is a big and very deep thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of Nigerians will argue that political leadership has a lot to do, in showing the values that the country treasures.
Absolutely.
In recent times, I'm sure that you're no stranger to the controversy that has now happened with the pardons that were granted by the president.
Yeah.
And a lot of people said, look, it bordered very strongly on what a society rewards. Have you been able to have this conversation with political leadership to say, you have to help our work? Because if the message is sent from political leadership, perhaps it will begin to trickle down to different cadres of society that things are really about to change.
You are very correct. And if you look at the Nigerian Identity Project, the National Value Charter, that's why it has two components. It has the leadership at the political level being brought to the table. All that we have had in the past is the citizen must do this, they must make sacrifice, they must, be patriotic, without a corresponding, demonstration of those values, on the side of political leadership. And that's why we have the two components to the values, the value charter. So you are very correct that it is important that the political leadership take the lead, but without excluding leadership at every other level. Everybody must key into it. I just gave you the example of Japan. They have a strong value system, which they have promoted over the years. So everybody understands what it means to be a Japanese, and you don't want to be left out. So whether you now find yourself in political leadership, in religious leadership position, or tradition, wherever you find yourself, you know what you need to do. And if you are just an ordinary citizen, you know what you need to do. And that is what we need to do in this country. Political leadership must take the lead, but every level of leadership is as important. The pardon that you gave example, you see, chain of command in government is so broad, and you always rely on your lieutenant, your assistant, to do their bit. And so when they bring it before you, you expect that the right thing has been done. It is not your duty to go, for instance, like the president had to go and study each case to see the circumstance around each person. That is the responsibility of some other people, and they are trusted to do that. But we must give credit to this government. It has demonstrated over time that it is not afraid anytime it notices something wrong has been done. Immediately it will say, no, stop, we have made a mistake. Let's go back and look at this. So there's no any ego in this. It's about being accountable. So if we make a mistake, we must admit it and address it immediately.
So you do believe that a mistake has been made?
Oh, of course. If it had not been made, the government, has said that clearly, and that's why it's being reviewed, and that is credit to government to say, okay, we are human, we can make mistake. Our advisors can give us wrong advice sometimes, or even they also can make mistake.
Yeah, but consequences. Because for those kind of grievous, egregious mistakes to be made in a country where your agency, I imagine that in recent times, the campaign you have been doing is not with saliva. You certainly would have been pumping a lot of effort, energy, money into this, and you are hoping that it would actually have an effect. But when things like this happen, they erode months, years, perhaps, of work that you're doing. Yeah. So they have consequences, not just on what has happened, not just in terms of embarrassing the government, but in terms of what the society believes or what it thinks. So don't you think that, yes, well, they have accepted that there's going to be a review or a mistake has been made, perhaps. There also needs to be consequences, an inquiry, perhaps, down the line as to what exactly had gone wrong.
Absolutely. I agree with that. We can't paper over issues like this. When they happen, we must identify what went wrong and who was responsible. And those are the examples that the citizens will see and say, yes, justice system is working. There's a rule of law, there's accountability, and there's transparency in what we are doing. Yes, these are subliminal communication. Things that you do that goes into people's consciousness, and they begin to see that. That's why we always say patriotism cannot be enforced. Neither can you legislate it. You have to motivate it. And to motivate patriotism, you have to give examples. You have to demonstrate that things are working, and we are all in it together, and not just one side being asked to do certain things and the other side is not coming forward. But we also know that government is very big, and change, as constant as it is, it's also the most difficult thing to achieve. So especially when it involves human. So it takes a long time for people to begin to key into this. And that's why we said we don't just going to create a value system in terms of document. We must also create institutions to nurture people. These institutions would grow you and myself as citizens who understand what is required of us, so that when we are not doing the right thing, we can self-appraise, because there are parameters to do that. So as we have today, there are no clear parameters. When you say there are global standards for what is right, but I can also tell you that it is contextual from society to society. If you speak of freedom in Russia, does not mean the same thing as freedom in America. It does not mean the same thing as freedom in China. Neither does it mean the same thing as freedom in Nigeria. So you must define what these principles mean in your country. And every citizen must understand it and know what is justice, what is freedom, what is democracy, what is meritocracy. You know, all this duty of care, all of these are important that we are clear about it. And we can only get to understand and inculcate those things if there are institutions created to nurture people. So in the countries where this has happened, they have institutions to nurture citizens. You know, I do give example that is like having the two popular religion, Islam and Christianity, and you don't have the Bible, you don't have the Quran. Where are going to get the guidance? Are they going to get the guidance from? So the Bible and the Quran exist to give guidance. But even when you have the Bible and the Quran, for those two religions, imagine when you don't have the churches and the mosque. Those are the institutions to nurture people, despite that you have the document. You know, so, and that's why we recommended 7 institutions of nurturing to the Federal Executive Council last year. And everything was approved. One of which is the introduction of the citizenship study in our schools, all the way from primary school to the university as compulsory subject. And just last month, the Federal Ministry of Education announced the introduction of heritage and citizenship as a subject, up from primary school to secondary school, SS3. Now it is compulsory. So and in that you have the civic education, you have values, you have history, you have heritage, everything rolled into that as compulsory subjects. So if you go to Nigerian schools now, you would study what it means to be a Nigerian. What are the expectations? What are the attributes that you must have? And currently, we are also in discussion with the Board of Polytechnic and Colleges of Education at that level, and NUC, to also incorporate that into the curriculum. That is just one of the 7 institutions, education.
Do you see the NOA, though, evolving to some sort of watchdog as well? That when certain things are done, or when some government agencies are not living up to, or maybe something scandalous has happened, or is about to happen, or you just get wind of something that you know will have the opposite effect on the work that you have been doing in recent times. Do you ever see the NOA, you know, having to raise the alarm, you know, to say this is not in tandem with what it means to be a Nigerian and the Nigeria that we are trying to build with the work we're doing? Okay,
so we are not going to become a watchdog. It's already embedded in the act that set up the NOA, and we are doing a lot of that. You know, some things that come to the public, the public see, but a lot happen that don't come to the public. For instance, we don't just disseminate government information. We also generate feedback. So we send feedback in terms of feedback from all the local government, because we have offices in all the 774 local government. So we generate feedback on a continuous basis. This gets to the president. It gets to key government functionaries from the people. These are what they are saying in every corner of the community. And when we notice that a particular agency has done something that should not be done, we write a letter, you know, giving all the details, and we send to that agency for them to do the right thing. We do for individual also.
I was going to ask if you, for an example.
Okay, so I'll give you 2 examples quickly.
Okay.
One, early this year, a monarch in Ogun State who used Nigerian notes and made it a garland, and was having a birthday and hung that on the neck of a musician. Nigerian notes. That was an abuse of Naira. We wrote him that your role in the society as a monarch, you know, places on your shoulder that responsibility to show example. This is not good. He did a press conference to apologize. It didn't stop at that. The Ogun State Traditional Council suspended him for 3 months. You know, recently also, and I'm sure that person was invited by China following our effort. There's a guy that does this advert, a motor dealer. I enjoy what he does. I love the way, the energy is. But we saw that in the process of doing that, without being deliberate about it, or knowingly to him, he was denigrating a particular section of the people of this country. That is the civil servant. And we wrote him a letter to say, no, please, don't put pressure on them until they have a particular car, until they build a particular house, they are not human beings. So he was invited by several media houses where he gave an account. He apologized. So we do a lot of this quietly. And when you also do the writing, we write to encourage you. A woman in Maiduguri just recently saw some money, a cleaner, a street, cleaner, a road cleaner. She took the money, about 4.7 or 4.8 million, and returned it. So we sent our people to her, to congratulate her, gave her a letter, and now we are even trying to, because we don't give cash. So we are buying, we discussed with her, so we are getting her a small business that can give her some support, so that she knows that, what she has done, government is happy, Nigeria is happy about it, and other people who see it also see that example. So we do a lot of that, but it's not everything that comes on TV or radio. So that's how we've been working. Okay, so I know that that's not the only thing you do. You've also tried to raise awareness around our national emblems, the flag, the symbols, the symbols, the national anthem, how it should be sung, when it should be sung, how many stanzas, etc. Yeah. How is that penetrating? Is it working? Yeah, it is. Surprisingly, the Nigerian children in schools are the first to hop on this. Within 2-3 months, across Nigeria, children in schools, they are enthusiastic about this. Yes, the youth, of course, there's some form of my generation will be resistant to that. Mm-hmm. So, but we are trying to tell them that it's nothing too serious. This new anthem. By the time you analyze the meaning, it speaks directly to who we are, more than the other one. And it is not just because we are reciting or singing it. It's for us to also understand the meaning and let it sink. It's part of the identity of a Nigerian. And so we must ensure that we understand it. So we received some school children at NOA last week. And by the time we sat with them, we were very impressed. Okay. The way they understand the meaning beyond even what some of us, they understand that though tribes and tongues differ, that in brotherhood, they know what that means. They know why our flag must be our symbol. Yeah. And just talking about the flag, I want to talk about the flag very quickly, because we're already out of time, as a matter of fact. It was October 1 recently, and interestingly, as October 1 was approaching, I saw that people started to sell flags on the streets, and people wanted to buy. But then I was looking at it and I say, this is the flag NOA says we shouldn't, that is not our flag. I mean, it had the coat of arms in the middle. Are you still able to make progress with getting the real and original Nigerian flags on the streets for those who really want to buy? Yes. Now, two things are happening. Even the people who are producing the flag in Nigeria, they don't know what is the correct flag. So we have to start with them. Okay. So we've been working with them to say this is the color code. It is not just any green. It is a specific kind of green. It is Emerald 2.0 green. That is our green. So we are working with those. We also want to certify people who are producing that we know are up to standard, so that everybody can know who to go patronize, to get the flag. But the corporates, the people that are mostly involved in this, are government institutions and private entities like the banks, the telecoms, the hotels. So we write all of these people. So such letters don't come to the public. We write and give all the specifications and say, this is what you need to do, this is how it's supposed to do. And even when we see a single person holding a wrong one, we stop and say, no, this is one. So I always have flag in my car. So wherever I go to, even if it's hotel, I say, no, remove this. This is the correct one. Put it there.
Maybe you leave a few with us. As you leave. Well, we have to thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us on this particular campaign, which I believe will continue, even though you say it's not just about campaigning, that so much more needs to happen to get the message to the people. We have to thank you for coming on the program this morning. Mr. Lanre Issa Onilu is the Director General of the National Orientation Agency.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.